JAX is one of the hardest carrying champions that you can play in the top lane. However, unlike most carry champions that you play in the top lane, his learning curve is relatively low, resulting in him being a staple pick in a lot of top laners' champion pool. Because of this, I wanted to do an in-depth guide on JAX to help those of you that already play JAX refine it, and those of you who don't play JAX learn it. Before we begin, have you checked out our website yet? GameLeap.com has hundreds of advanced guides by challenger players just like this one. Hit the link in the description below to sign up today. The great thing about JAX is, like I said earlier, his learning curve is not that steep. In fact, there's nothing mechanically challenging in his kit. The only thing you need to be doing is making full usage of his kit at all times. First thing I want to do is go over his abilities and his passive just to explain everything that he can and can't do in his kit. Now, the simplest part of JAX's kit is his passive. Every auto attack grants him bonus attack speed, stacking up to 8 times. This allows him to take towers very quickly and also apply Conqueror stacks very quickly. JAX's passive is one of the things that makes it so that when JAX has lane control, he is very, very scary, because he can have a lot of attack speed just stacking off of minions or towers. It's the reason that his dives are so good, and it's the reason why his early game is relatively strong compared to a lot of other champions. Moving on, JAX's Q, Leap Strike, is a dash that moves him to a target, either allied or enemy. If it's an enemy, it also deals damage. This is JAX's main source of mobility, however it does deal damage as well and serves as a Sheen proc too. JAX's W is an auto attack reset that will empower his next auto attack. It can also be used in tandem with his Q to empower the Q and make the Q deal more damage. Like I said, there's really nothing complex about this champion. It's very, very simple at its core. It's just using his kit to the fullest is the tricky part. Moving on, JAX's E is an ability that allows him to dodge incoming auto attacks, and it also reduces AoE damage that is incoming by 25%. This is JAX's main way to negate trades early on into the game, and works into 90% of the champions in League of Legends. Single target mages are pretty much the only thing that can hit JAX with full damage through his counter-strike. Finally, JAX's ultimate is an ability that grants him bonus armor and magic resist based on how much AD or AP he has. There is also a passive portion to his ultimate that allows every third auto attack that JAX performs to deal bonus magic damage. Now that we understand JAX's kit, I want to kind of explain how it is that you can use this kit to its fullest. But first, I want to go over the rune page that JAX uses. You're going to want to be running Conqueror, Triumph, either Tenacity or Alacrity, Last Stand, and then Sorcery Secondary with Nimbus Cloak and Transcendence. You want your shards to be Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and then whatever resist you need. This is the page that you're going to be running 90% of the time, and if you don't run that page, then instead you would run Inspiration with Magical Footwear and Time Warp Tonic. You want to be maxing your W first, into E into melee lanes, and Q into ranged lanes. Your build will be Triforce into Spear of Shojin, into Sterix Gauge, then GA, and finally, as a last item, you can usually build a resist item, like Randuin's Omen or Spirit Visage. Alternatively, if you are into very, very heavy AP, you can rush a Gnasher's Tooth into Trinity Force into Spear of Shojin. With Transcendence, this means that you don't actually suffer from overcapping on CDR and instead will get a lot of bonus adaptive force for this build. The reason that you rush a Gnasher's Tooth into heavy AP is because when you ultimate, you will get a lot more bonus magic resist without actually giving up any damage. Again, you should only be building this if you are into very heavy AP. This means 4 magic damage dealers on the enemy team. Now that we have all of the build, skill order, runes that you need to know, let's get into the actual game and how to play as JAX, how to put all of this together. Now, in pretty much every single game, you want to be starting E and trying to trade early if they're melee and just trying to farm for level 2 if they're ranged. You want to use your E to block as much damage as possible in an early trade. If they're ranged, just use your E to get as much CS as possible and then back off when your E isn't up. A classic mistake that I see a lot of JAX players make is they will activate their E before they are even in threat of taking any damage. Usually you only want to activate your E once you have started the trade. This usually means landing an auto attack first and then waiting until they start their auto attack animation on you before activating the E. The reason behind this is you want to block as much minion damage as well as champion damage as possible. If you activate your E before autoing, you won't have drawn minion aggro yet, which means you are negating less damage. If they try and trade onto you melee range while your E is active, then just let it go the full duration. However, if they just try and run away from your E, you should probably pop it early, stun everything, and then walk away. Wait for your E to come back up. You should have wave control in about 90% of your melee matchups, so something that you should look to do is gain level 2 before the enemy laner. Remember, you hit level 2 after 7 minions have died in your lane, so look for an all-in as soon as that 7th minion is dying. You take Q second, and you can jump on them with your E active to get a huge chunk on the enemy laner. After your level 2, try to shove the wave into the tower to reset it. Your level 3 isn't anything special, and a lot of champions gain the ability to trade you at level 3, so you want to be having the lane in a safe spot once the enemy hits level 3. Crashing the wave into the tower and resetting it is the best way to guarantee that this happens. For your first component, you have two options. The first is Tiamat. This will allow you to shove to tower quicker, and basically this playstyle means you are looking for tower plates and not really kills. Tiamat isn't the greatest for trading since it really only gives a little bit of AD and an active, and the passive isn't really going to do much in a raw trade, it just helps you shove the wave. So if the enemy player isn't really looking to fight you, then Tiamat is a great choice because it means you can look to shove into the tower and still get a gold advantage through plating. If it is a hard lane, however, and they are trying to trade you, I would recommend getting Phage first instead of Tiamat. This gives you some better combat stats and also allows you to stick onto opponents for longer extended trades because of the move speed passive. Remember, once JAX hits level 6, he uses health a lot better than most champions. This is due to the resists that he gets from his ultimate when he activates it. JAX's extended trades are very potent past level 6 due to the low cooldown on W paired with the steroid that his R gives. If you do itemize a Tiamat early, keep in mind that most people just sit on the Tiamat and they never really upgrade it all the way to a Titanic or a Ravenous. This is because the only reason they're buying Tiamat is for the wave clear, and they're not really looking for it for the stats that it gives, so they won't really upgrade it because base Tiamat is enough to clear the wave quickly. It's up to you whether or not you want to upgrade the Tiamat as a 6th item or not. Some people sell it, some people upgrade it. It's entirely up to you and your player preference. Try not to rely on Tiamat as a crutch because sometimes it will be better to itemize differently, and if you use Tiamat every single game, that is taking up an item slot. Once you have Triforce completed, you can duel pretty much any champion in the game. It also opens up your split pushing capabilities to take towers quickly. You want to be using your W for Sheen procs as much as possible. This is both on towers and in trades. Keep in mind that if you are on a tower, your W won't actually be consumed. You need to auto-attack a minion or use your Q on an enemy minion in order to consume the W and start the cooldown. Because of this, when you're looking to just kill a tower as quickly as possible, you want to use your W for the Sheen proc, wait for your Sheen proc to come back up, and then Q an enemy minion in order to bring the W off cooldown and also use the Q for a Sheen proc. This is the most efficient way to kill a tower as JAX. One of the more advanced tactics that you can also use on JAX is you can reactivate your E for a second Sheen proc. This is not something that you should focus on all too much though, since your W is a low enough cooldown that it won't make too much of a difference and only really comes into play in very clutch situations. If you are looking to refine your JAX though, this is something that you should keep in mind if you haven't already perfected it. Once you have Spear of Shojin, you can 1v1 pretty much any champion in the entire game. You can also look to team fight if you have enough utility to keep you alive. The only thing that JAX is susceptible to during a Spear of Shojin proc is CC. JAX can pretty much have his E permanently up with a Spear of Shojin proc, so he's able to just dodge every auto attack and take 25% reduced damage from any AoE ability. However, if he gets CC'd and he is no longer able to activate his E, then it is most likely he will just die if he jumps in. So just keep in mind, if they have a very heavy CC comp, then it's probably best to wait for your Steric's gauge before trying to teamfight. Remember, as JAX, you are a ticking time bomb. The more items you get, the less likely the enemy team is going to be able to deal with you. So farming is very important. Taking towers, getting gold is very important. Do not just look to trade over and over and over again, because oftentimes it will just make you miss farm and you might mess up your lane and actually give the enemy lane an advantage if you die early. Sometimes the best move on JAX is just to farm for the first 10 minutes and play it safe. It's okay if you need to sit in the side lane just to get CS and get your items. That is a perfectly okay thing to do on JAX. Your main goal on JAX is just to get your items as quickly as possible so that you're able to group and team fight. However, if it's a team that you're probably not going to be able to team fight into, they're too CC heavy or they have single target mages on their team, then it might be better just to split push the entire game. When you are split pushing on JAX, there's a few things to keep in mind. Mostly you want to be using your Triforce to its full effectiveness, and you want to be using your Spear of Shojin to its full effectiveness. A lot of people forget that if you kill a unit while having Triforce, you gain a lot of move speed due to the passive. This is something that will allow you to chase down a lot of targets, even later on into the game. Basically, the idea is, when you arrive to a wave, you can QW a ranged creep to instantly kill it and get a bunch of bonus move speed. Using your ultimate will then give you further movement speed if you use Nimbus Cloak, and you'll use your Spear proc from that point to get another Q back up and basically just run the champion down the lane. This is a great way to get kills in the side lane if the enemy laner is playing disrespectful and too far up on the wave. Now obviously there are some champions that you aren't going to be able to catch, like Riven or Camille, and at that point it's better to just play on the wave, shove it in, and try and get tower damage instead. Remember, with your Spear of Shojin proc, you want to be autoing as much as possible. Even if an enemy champion isn't in range to auto, as long as you can auto something, it will bring your cooldowns back up. So if you find yourself getting kited, you don't have Q cooldown up just yet during your Spear of Shojin proc, auto attack a few minions to bring that cooldown up faster so you can close the gap again. Another thing is, if the enemy team commits 5 people to a fight, it is okay to use your ultimate to get attack speed from your Spear of Shojin to take a tower quicker. Your ultimate's cooldown is low enough that it will be up again the next time you need it. That about does it for all of the little intricacies of JAX. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. We have hundreds of guides just like this one done by challenger players. If you really want to push your limits and increase your rank, this is one of the best ways for you to do that. Click the link in the description below and break free of your rank.